So having spoken about PubMed, let's start with how to do a search on PubMed. The first thing that we are going to do here is the search bar. I'm very sure all of you know how to log in into the PubMed web page. And once you have logged in, we get a search bar. Just like how we do in Google or any other search, please make sure you have an account in PubMed and log in through the account. Once we enter the PubMed website, we can start with searching. Let's continue with searching for the same keywords that we've already decided upon and we have been searching. Right? So we will start with dental pain and children. And the other keyword that we had was children. So we put dental pain and children and we will give for a search. When we give research, we see that we have 3,335 records. The articles or the whatever PubMed pulls out as search is called as a record. So we've got about 3,335 records which are seen, which are put in a order on different pages. So we will now we'll begin by looking at what are the different features which are present on this page which we can utilize. So when we look at how it is being sorted, we can see that it is sorted by something called as best match. Yeah. So in this, if we again look at it, we can see that there is a display option which is there. And in that you can choose as to how you want it sorted. So when we click on display option, it'll ask you, give you a format, what format you want your search to be displayed as, how you want it to be sorted, and how many per page you want. So when we look at sorting it out, we can do it with best match, which is a relatively new feature which is there, or we can sort it by the most recent articles first. So if I want to see like what is the most recent work in this area, I can start with that and then move on to the previous work. So now if we see that this, mind you, this search was done a little ago. So that's the reason why the first article comes up as a 2020 article. All right. So, or if I want to see abstract, for sorting, you can do it date-wise by the best match and these methods. For format, you can choose if I want just the PubMed or just the PMID number, or I want the complete summary or abstracts. These are the 4 options that I can choose. Then how many records do I want to see per page? I can see 10 to maximum of 200 records in one single page. Right? So these are the options which are available for displaying the results of a search that we have done on PubMed. Now, let us look at one particular article, right? This is what I was talking to you in the beginning about how we log in, so that once we have logged in, we will be able to save articles or save searches, right? So once you have logged in with the regular Gmail or any email ID is good enough to register with the National Library of Medicine. And once you have logged in, you can save the search. So what it will ask is, can I save the citations to a file? Whether I want all the results which are there on this particular page, whether I want all the whole result, like if I've had 3,335 records, if I want all the records to be saved, or am I going to select a few and just save those citations to a file? This feature is a very, very useful feature, especially when we are working on review of literature or when we are working on thesis or very closed areas. This is a very good feature because we may end up starting with a few hundred studies and come down to narrow down our search and select very few articles which we may want to use for discussion. Again, a review of literature is a long span work. So we may not remember tomorrow if I have selected this article, why did I select this article, all those things. So the one of the best ways is to select whatever articles which we find pertinent to us, choose what way format you want to save it and create a file. We can email it to ourselves, right? So it'll itself put that you did the study on dental pain in children on PubMed, and so these are the results which are there, and it can send it to you. Or the other thing that we can do is we can send it to the clipboard. So when we are sending to the clipboard, what we can do is we can copy and paste it to the Word document or any other document that we want, right? So if it says, see, we want to send it to the clipboard, we want to send all the results on this page, or we have selected a few articles and we want the results, then we can put it on the clipboard and we can send it to the, so it's already added to the clipboard. 10 pages have been added to the clipboard, or 10 items have been added to the clipboard. So that is the next feature which is there on. And if we can see, I can compose or I can send it to my email. I can send it to my Word document, any which place I can use the material from my clipboard. The next option which is there in Pubmed, which we will talk about, is the creating alert topic. Whenever there are some articles which you'll have to just excuse me for a minute. So now we'll continue with where we stopped. When I'm going to, after we've created an alert and we have sent it to the clipboard, we'll talk about the different filters that we can use in when it comes to our PubMed. So the first filter that we can see is filtering the results by the years. What is the range of years that I want? Here, the first search I've used from all the way from 1953 till 2020. So I can say if I want articles only in the last 5 years, or I want articles only in the last 10 years, I can set that on this bar. These are features which have made it a lot more interactive and a lot more easier for us from the previous ones which were there. So now I can reduce the number of years, or I can set the data for which I want. So for example, if I'm doing a study, I want to get the data for 5 years, only the last 5 years. I can get that data alone. Or I want data which is there for the between 1990 and 1995. What is the data which is there? I can get only that data, right? So this is a very useful feature when we are doing a review of literature. So when chronologically I'm going to be writing, I can choose, okay, I want some pertinent articles from this area, from this period. Then I want to move to this period, right? So I can go on doing these kind of filters which are available on the left side. The next thing is what kind of articles I want. There are a lot of additional filters. I can say I want only the articles where the free full text is available. I don't want articles which have only the abstract. I want where the full text is available, maybe free, maybe paid, it's okay. So we have the choice of doing it. I can also choose what type of articles I'm looking for, whether it is a book, whether it's a trial, whether it is a systematic review or anything. So now when we look at this, I have applied these filters. That is, I've asked for full text articles on systematic reviews which have been done within the last 5 years. And so from somewhere around 26 or 30,000, we have come to a result of hardly around 26 studies, right? So next, once we have learned how to do the filters, we will start with what are the other features which is available in PubMed. So I think you can see here that the 10 articles that we had earlier saved on clipboard is still showing. The clipboard is showing as 10 because this is the 10 articles which we had selected at that point. The other option which is there in PubMed, when we can see on top, is creating an alert. We'll talk about advanced search in a little bit. So creating an alert, I can save a search with the name, and I can add what were the terms or items which I had used for for this search, and then I can ask PubMed to send me emails as and when there are new search results. So now today, if I've got 26 articles on this, and within the next month or next week, there's somebody who adds an article which fits into all this descript. So then that article will be emailed to me saying there is a new update on your search. There are new results on it. And it is up to us to select in what frequency I want this update to come, which day I want it to happen, whether I want it to happen on a Saturday, I want it to happen on a Monday, whatever. So I have different options of choices of creating this alert. Again, this is a very good feature, like I was saying before, because our dissertation is a long-term project. When we have alerts, we should be alert about what is happening in our uh, area of research. So that is another important feature. And that create RSS is basically your Twitter or any of those social media, how we can create you can create alerts for your searches from there. All right. So now we'll move on to the next, that is the advanced search builder. So when we click on advanced search, this is the page that will come. That is your advanced search builder. And if you can see, it will usually pull up the history where you can see there's a query box, there is a and box, and then there is a history and search detail box. So this gives you a history of what were all the searches that you've done before, what were the results, how many results you have obtained. So I think you can see from dental pain in children, where we started at 23,401, how we have narrowed down to 26 using the different strata, right? So suppose this is the last search that I've done. I want to add a query to it and go on for an advanced search. So all I can do is, if you see the actions, this is very similar to our mobile phones where we have the three dots. So I think a symbol which all of us are very comfortable and familiar with. We click on it and we say add query. We can see that it's already come. Whatever we have used in that search has already come to the query box. All right. So that is the way of how we could go about doing an advanced search in the PubMed. So, okay, now let us start with doing, the filters which are there. So when we are opening it up, you can see that PubMed has some terms there. Though I gave for dental pain and children, there are a lot more of words which are there here. One is toothache, then I can see, which is something which I have not used at all. And then it is saying dental pain, child, children, child, is all those things. And then there's something called as mesh term, which is written there, right? Mesh terms, all fields. These are the different items which we can see there in that page. So now let us try to understand what mesh terms are. That's okay. Excuse me for that. So we shall look at what are the different mesh terms which are there and how to arrive at mesh terms, how to search for mesh terms. So medical subheadings, or otherwise known as mesh terms. So basically, what are these mesh terms? It's an NLM controlled vocabulary. It's used for indexing articles. All right. So what happens is when, the best example I can give you for this is how we search for movies, right? I know I want to watch Hridaya movie or some movie which is their latest. Just imagine if you opened up Amazon Prime or you opened up Netflix, you just saw all the thousands and thousands of movies just put, next to each other without any cataloging or randomization or anything. How am I going to pick the movie that is there? So that's what we are doing when we are searching. But what happens behind this process, or what is the process which occurs behind this, is the people at Netflix or at Amazon Prime or any of the OTTs that we use, what they are going to do is as soon as they have a movie, they're going to catalog it under different subheadings. Okay, so there is a new movie, so they'll say, okay, when somebody searches for a latest movie, I'll show this one there. And then they say actor wise, okay, this is Pranav Mohanlal. So when somebody is going to search for Pranav Mohanlal or based on an actor, this movie is going to show up there. This movie is currently trending, so it will show up under trending movies. It's a Malayalam movie. So when somebody is searching for Malayalam movie, this movie will fit in there. So when we look at this, all these are medical, are subheadings, right? So this movie will fit all the subheadings. So at this current point of time, if I search for Malayalam movie, this movie will show up. If I search for an Amazon original, this movie will show up. So just like this whole process, there are a set of people who are sitting in back there at Pubmed, at the NLM, where what they will do is the moment they are going to get any one of our articles, they are going to decide what are all the mesh terms which are there, under which all headings or subheadings is this article going to pull up when we are going to do a search. So now you will understand why they ask us to give keywords, right? When we give, whenever we are doing submitting a paper, they ask us to give keywords, and there is always the saying that make your keywords as mesh terms, because then there is a higher chance for your publication to be shown. So let's see where to look for mesh terms and what they are in PubMed. So when we look at the article on the right hand side, after we talk about abstracts, everything, there's something called as mesh terms. So these are the medical subheadings which are there for this current article: child, preschool child, dental anxiety or therapy, human, pain management, measurement of pain perception, pediatric dentistry, virtual reality, all these things. So when this article has gone into NLM cataloging, it has been cataloged under these subheadings. So only if I'm going to be using any one of these terms will I end up with the article. So now this is where we'll have to the art of searching in PubMed has to be refined, because we need to know how to look for the right article, and for that we need to understand this process. We'll also go ahead and understand how the mesh is done and how we can. So I have a keyword, I don't know if it is the mesh word or not, so how do I find out? So from my article, I pull out the mesh terms and then I search in mesh. When I search in mesh, see, when I've searched the term child in mesh, I've got about 62 records. Okay, there are 62 different results which have come for that. And when you look through the different ones, you can see there is child restraint systems, National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, orphan child. There's so many things which have come. So for me here, what is the meaning that I'm looking for? I'm looking for a person between the age of 6 to 12 years. So it's an individual between 2 and 5 years is a preschool child. So I have clicked on it. So every mesh term, when we take it up in full, will have something like this. And what you're seeing below is the different subheadings. a child, what for every medical heading which is there, there'll be a subheading, and there's the entry term here is children. Okay, that is in this article, they've used the term children, which comes under this child mesh. And again, we can see there is a mesh tree which is there. That is, I'll just show you, pull out the pointer. That is here. The mesh tree is here. So when we look at it, it's like persons category. In persons, it's age group wise. In age group wise, it's children. And in child, it is a preschool child. So these are the different categories which are there, right? So that is the mesh tree. So we will have to understand these things. And once we have got to understand the different mesh terminology, what I can do is I can add the mesh term to my search, right? I can add the mesh term to my search strategy. So I have added the mesh term to my search builder. So when I say add to search builder, it will come in there. Now let me go search for my other point, that is pain. I want to search for the other mesh term is pain. So when I show you these two, I think you will get a pretty good understanding of how the mesh terms work and how the mesh trees work, so that we will be able to get more refined and better results. So again, pain has come up with about 63 results, which include acute pain, breakthrough pain, pain management, all those things. So when I've looked at pain, how they have defined it, what are the different subheadings, and then, there's like so many entry terms which will go in under pain. And there below that, when I look at the tree, when I'm going to look at the mesh tree for pain, there are, we can see that there's all kind of analgesia, algesia, hyperalgesia, all those things which is coming, and different aches. And there I see that the dental pain comes under facial pain, which is a term which we have never thought of, where there is something called as toothache. So now I know that the dental pain that I was talking about earlier, which I was using as a keyword till now, should be replaced by toothache, which is the mesh term for dental pain. So when I'm going to look at toothache, I can see that it comes under the stomatognathing diseases, tooth diseases. So now I can add that again to my search builder. So when I add that to my search builder, I've got, just pause my video, yeah. So now I've got the child mesh and toothache, which are the two mesh terms which I'm searching on PubMed. So when I've searched for those two terms together, I've got about 429 results. So we talked about this is how we use it, do an advanced search, and how we identify mesh terms in PubMed. The next thing that we have to understand in PubMed is the Booleans. The Booleans are basically three things that we are talking about: and, or, and not. Okay, when we use the Boolean and, we get articles where both the terms appear, which basically means when we want a large number of articles, we use the Boolean and. When I use the Boolean or, the articles where either one of the terms appears, this brings out the largest number of articles. Like if I said pain, toothache and child, it will bring the largest number of articles possible. And when I say not, articles where one term appears when the other does not appear, which relatively will bring out a lesser number of articles. So let us use the Booleans and let us see. So let me enter the search term. child. And then here, when I move to my right side, I can see the Boolean box where all the three Booleans and, or, and not are there. So I'm going to choose and toothache, right? So I can choose any one of the three Booleans and, or not. So when I'm choosing to child or toothache and I'm searching, I will end up with the maximum number or the largest number of records that I should get. So I've got more than 2 lakh results when I've searched child or toothache, right? Now, when I go back and instead of the Boolean or, if I use the Boolean and I search, I will end up with a much and say, I want preschooler. I said a child, but who's not a preschooler. So from my earlier results, again, I get a refined result. So this is how I can use these three terms and, or, and not to refine my search strategy and to get articles that are very specific to what I am searching for. Right? So that is another feature which is there in PubMed. The next thing is wildcards, which is basically certain phrases of truncations which we can use, which will help us to especially take off the ambiguity. See, if we use an asterisk at the end of the root of our term, minimum of 4 letters, it will pull out all the other terms which may have something similar. Excuse me. I'll have an example for you soon. If we put it within inverted commas, the words must appear exactly as that phrase for it to be pulled out in a search. Again, we know that there's a lot of difference in the spelling between the American and the European spelling. So sometimes behavior might be spelled as VIOR, sometimes as VIOUR. So if I'm not sure, I can put a question mark right there where, I'm not sure of the behavior. Then it will pull out all the terms which use both these kind of spellings. And also when, like I say, women, all these things, I can use a dollar sign so that it will pull out the results for both. So now let us look at so when I've searched for the word periodontal treatment, I've got around 59,800 results. So now let us understand that here what PubMed will do is it will use periodontal and treatment as two words, and it would have searched for all the articles, where periodontal is there or treatment is there. Right? So this is how the results are so large. Now, if I use both periodontal treatment within inverted commas, like how I was talking before, with as a phrase, and then give search for it, we will find that we have narrowed down our results considerably to 3,600 articles from the earlier 50,000 plus articles, because now the PubMed has pulled out only those term articles where periodontal treatment occurs as a single phrase. Okay, so this is how we can use, and I would suggest that you use the different truncations and try using them, and we should be able to get good results. So a quick recap of what we have learned in Pubmed till now is create your login with your email ID, identify mesh terms whenever you want to search on Pubmed, use booleans, truncations and phrases appropriately, save your searches as and when you go, and use citations. The citations can be used from Pubmed directly. So these are the different things that we can do with Pubmed. So the last part of the lecture that we're going to go into is the reference management software. What is a reference management software or a citation management software or bibliographic management softwares? These are basically softwares which are used for recording, utilizing bibliographic citations or references. They are used for managing project references, either for an individual or for all of us together. Can be used time and again in generating bibliographies and helps us to store and retrieve references conveniently. So there are a lot of uh, ref manager softwares which are present: refworks, Zotero, refdb, mendeley, endnote. These are all the different softwares which are present, of which the most common ones are refworks, Zotero, endnote, mendeley, and citation C. EndNote comes at a fee, whereas Zotero and Mendeley are free for use, and the most of them integrate with Microsoft Word, which is very, very important for us as researchers because we use MS Office for most of our research-related works, and whether it can directly capture from a web page. We'll talk about how that happens. Zotero and Mendeley do that. So I would suggest that you could stick to Zotero or Mendeley, both of which are free to download and free to use, integrate with MS Office, and we can capture records directly from the web pages. So this is how Zotero is spelled. So search for Zotero, download Zotero from the you know, website. And when you're downloading Zotero, please make sure you download and install the Zotero connector for your browser. So basically I use a Chrome. So I have used the connector for Chrome connector. This is one of the most important or most useful tools in Zotero, right? So once you have completed the installation, you can see that the Zotero is there in your desktop. So as and when you open your laptop and you connect to Chrome, please open up Zotero also and keep. Now let's look at how Zotero functions. So we can see that, most of the records, some of them may be PDFs, some of them may have, short abstracts, which is there. So all these can be saved in the same place under a single folder in Zotero. And when I click on them, all the information, including from where I have saved it on what date, we will be able to retrieve at any point of time. So that is one of the important things. And here, if you see, there is a place for us to make our notes. So I have a selected article on which I want to make notes. I can make notes on it and keep. The other feature is how to create a bibliography, which is very, very important for us. So now, if we say, if you click on whatever articles are there together, right click on it, then we will get the create the citation or bibliography. Citation, as all of us understand, will have the year and the author's name, whereas bibliography would include all the detail. I'm sorry, citations will have the year and this thing, and you have a choice of how you want to save it, whether you want to save it as a HTML file, whether you want to print it, or you want to copy it to the clipboard. One of the methods that we could use it is copying it to the clipboard and copy it to whichever Word document that we want to take it to. So now we'll open up some citations. So there are these many articles. I have clicked on them and I have clicked on creating a citation. Now let's open a Word document, and from the clipboard, I can print it there. So now my citation is here. So what has happened? There is, these are the different citations which is there. Palgas 2008, so and so, so and so, so and so. Same way, let me create a bibliography and show that we've selected the same number of articles. There are different styles which are available here for citations and bibliography. Choose the Harvard or Vancouver, whichever is supposed to be used for thesis, and paste. And now within a few seconds, I've got the complete citations. I may have spent about a month collecting these articles. And if it was in the olden times, I would have personally have to write down these. Now, all I had to do was I just had to click onto the connector when I was looking at that article. It's automatically got saved here and my bibliography is ready. Let me also put in one word of caution. When we are using Zotero, EndNote, Mendeley, any of the reference softwares, just because you're using a software, please do not just take a print and hand it over to your guide. Please go through it. There are times when there are errors which are seen with the software also. We get, where there is missing page numbers, wrong page numbers, or usually we don't find a lot of mistakes, but there is a chance for mistake. So if you're using a reference manager, please make sure that you go through the data which has come through before you submit it, right? So for reference manager, please download a reference manager software, download the connector for it, create folders and start saving. So till now, we have learned how to search for information, how to store the information. So what next? We'll have to evaluate the information that we have got, right? A good literature review, is not simply summarizing whatever results that we've got. It is analyzing, synthesizing, and critically evaluating each one of those articles and get into a clear picture of what is the state of knowledge. So how can I do a critical analysis? These are the different guidelines which are there for me to do, or reporting guidelines which are there. So if I have taken a case report, I can subject it to a care guideline reporting. I can see, okay, is the title clear? Does the title say case report? Does it have, do they have the patient consent? Have they looked? So if a case report has been done well according to this, I can say that this is something of value. If it is an RCT, does it follow the consort guidelines? How well does it rate in the consort? So that then I can choose if I want to keep this review of literature or not. I know This is the ideal way of doing it. I'm very sure that none of us are going to find the time to go through, because I know when even for a journal club, we don't find the time to do the critical analysis. How are we going to sit and do critical analysis for all our thesis articles? I think that may not really happen in practically, but that is the most ideal or desirable way in which we could do it. What I would suggest that you do is at least look at, is the author addressing the same problem that we are talking about? Have they, what are the theories that they're talking about, and what are the results and conclusions of the study? Please do not just go through the abstract and pull out and write it in the review of literature. At least go through the idea of the study, the methodology, the results and conclusions, and always look for what they have said in discussion. Okay, whether they are saying what is the limitation of that study, because most of the times the limitations of one study will form the basis for most of the other studies, right? So how, and then you note it down. Either we can note it down using reference cards, or you can reference cards probably is a little outdated and older method of doing it. So what you do is you write down, take a small size of paper, a hard paper, where for each article you write down the whole article name and reference, and put in a small summary or analysis which you have done by yourself. So that, because what will happen is you may read some 200 articles for your thesis, you will not remember all the 200 or even 50 articles which you might need to collate together for your review of literature. So if you have made the small short note kind of thing, it will help you whenever you want it, and use color coded pens or pencils to write as, I want to use this in introduction, I want to use this article in discussion. So if you can just mark it, in a corner on this reference card, this will, you'll find this to be very, very useful when you're writing your thesis, which may happen probably 6 months or 1 year or 1.5 years after you have first read the article. So that way, that reference cards are still very useful. And instead of reference cards, what you could do is in Zotero or any reference management software, you can create different folders. You can create a folder as introduction, review of literature, methodology, discussion. And each time you find an article which is good, or there is a pertinent part of that article, you save the article to that folder, make a note there that this portion of this article I would like to use in my introduction. So the moment, what will happen is over a period of time, you would have read a lot of articles, and out of which you would have read 60 articles, out of which only 3 articles you would want to use in your introduction. But the moment you open your introduction folder, you already have the 3 articles with notes on which part of this article you want to use for your current writer. So that's how you can make good use of the reference management software, or end up with good writing skills. And when you're writing the review, how are we going to write it? The review of literature has to be done chronologically, right? But you need not start from the oldest till date, because it is not truly possible, especially if you're for the purpose of dissertation. It may not be truly possible to write down everything chronologically. So some of it may be, if you have a chapter on, if it's a library dissertation, you have a chapter on history, a lot of review of literature can go in there. But otherwise, the simple way is chronologically, you choose a point of time, 10 years, 5 years, or, if it's a relatively a topic which is not worked upon much, then probably I can start from the earliest article till date. But if it's something which is very common, so, I know that if I have to start from the earliest article, I'll have, thousands of articles, then it's not going to be possible. Again, at least have some key articles over a period of time, right? Say so and so did this at this point of time. This is what they have, this was the turning point article. So do that. Avoid simply listing and summarizing sources in order. Please don't simply say this guy did this study, they did this. That is not how a review of literature is done. And always write your interpretation. I'll give you some examples for structuring. When you want a topic sentence, that is a sentence which expresses the topic and central point of your paragraph, you can use something like, many studies have focused on this aspect, on the role of so and so mineral on the bone density, something like that. When I'm talking about a pivotal study, that is an influential study that influences the traditional research landscape, then you can choose a sentence something like this: analysis by so and so et al in 2000, in whichever year, concluded that. So which shows that when I'm using this kind of a structuring, it shows that this study is a pivotal study, based on which there has been a different conclusion, and it has changed the direction of you know uh, the thought process or the knowledge. When you're critically evaluating a study, one of the nice words that you can use is however, or the findings of older studies like this, do not really apply to this person's study. So that shows that this study is critically different or was evaluated in a different light, right? When there is a theory, and you have a study where there's a new theory which was postulated, you can use, for structuring, you can use so and so et al. Theorizes or theorized that the so and so thing. And whenever there's a gap, there you can always say that so and so identified that there is a lack of research, and they analyzed this in their paper. I can also give you some examples of connecting words which you can use for your review of literature, because believe me, that's the most difficult thing to get when you're doing a review of literature, because there are 25 or 30 articles or 40 articles that we have to write review of. And for everything, we can't say that so and so et al. Studied this and found this, studied this and concluded that. So you can use some of these connecting words, however, nonetheless, contrary, in addition, additionally, all those things, right? The last thing, what are the common mistakes that people make when they are writing review? One is you miss relevant information while you want to finish it fast, so you miss relevant information. And you are depending exclusively on secondary data than on primary data. And you're looking at the results rather than the methodology. That is, you're not looking at the strength of the studies that which you are presenting. And sometimes we tend to go too extensive or too limited on a topic. Again, that's a mistake, right? I have 2 or 3 aspects of my study which I'm talking about, and I'm going to concentrate only on one portion of it. Then I'm not doing a good literature review. Again, if I do not organize the contents logically, but here most of the time I think the university says that we do it chronologically, so we will have to stick to that. And when the information that we collect is not related to the topic and we're losing focus, we get carried away. This does happen on and off. So again, be careful when we are writing a review. All right. And do not use sources from non-scholarly sources. Please do not use information from non-scholarly sources like my professor said this, or I heard somebody here, or I concluded this. Please do not use that in your review of literature, right? And always accept other researchers without if you accept it without doing a critical analysis. I think we already spoke about it. And also when you are paraphrasing, be very careful. Plagiarism is something that we should avoid when we are doing a review of literature. In fact, this has been picked up from one of our earlier vice chancellor's articles on how to do a review of literature. And do not use emotional phrases or your individual opinion when you're writing a literature review. So finding the right literature and writing it is only the beginning, because a sound literature review is the foundation to quality practice and research. And as a healthcare professional, the ability to describe and analyze published literature on a subject and develop discussion and argument is central to evidence-based research and practice. Gratitude to the team of Clinical Epidemiological Unit at Pushpagiri Institute of Medical Sciences and Team Pushpagiri at the Dental College, and so many, many more other guiding angels. Let me finish by saying, let us not stop at shaping smiles. Let us shape some lives too. Thank you. You're always welcome to share some questions with me if you have any. On my email ID, I shall respond. Once again, apologies for not being present in person for this presentation. Thank you.